So, are you wondering how to build your brand on social media? And are you somebody who's thinking about it and has very mixed feelings about social media? Well, you are going to love this particular episode of the Enough Already podcast. And welcome to the Enough Already podcast. I'm your host, Betsy Jordyn. I'm a business mentor and a brand messaging strategist, and I am passionate about helping consultants and coaches bring their dream businesses to life. This is the show for consultants and coaches who want to forge their own paths of success in every aspect of what they do. And today we have a very special episode where I am bringing on several of my community members who are going to share with you their experiences about social media. So the thing about social media is we all have a love-hate thing with it. You know, it's really cool that social media can be like this 24/7 marketing and networking opportunity, but it can feel really awkward if you're trying to get yourself known. You can feel like, how do I stand out in all of this, crowd of people? I don't want to compete for attention. It can create all kinds of feelings. So we started a social media for skeptics challenge in my Purpose to Profits Academy. And today we are going to be talking about all the things that we learned through our challenges and how we could actually make social media a positive experience and something that's in alignment with our values. So without further ado, I want to bring on my community members onto the show. So welcome everybody, and we are so glad to have you here.
Hello.
So before we get started, I would love for you all to introduce yourself. So if you wouldn't mind, just share a little bit about what you do. And if you want to use your what I do format, just for extra bonus points, that would be great. And what inspired you to join the Purpose to Profits Academy?
Hi, I'm Kimberly Bolton. I'm a teacher, mental health advocate, and coach. I started working with Betsy on my business about a year and a half ago. And she brought me from idea all the way to launch and launched my website, launched my presence on social media. And I was very excited to be a part of the Purpose to Profits Academy social media challenge because I really wanted to learn more about how to use the social media tools to help me in my business while I'm working with teachers and schools and coaches and support in education to really help dig into the resilience and regulation skills that will help teachers stay longer in the classroom. And so I'm very glad to be here.
And I love that because you brought back into the passion of like, okay, I want to learn this social media because it aligns with the passion I have for serving my clients. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I'll go next. Hi, I'm Sari Goodman. I started working with Betsy after listening to her podcast for quite a while. And then something she said on her podcast resonated with me, which was, how much time and money have you spent training for your current position and your current to gather the knowledge and experience you've had, and now you're starting a business, and what are you investing to start that business? And my answer was nothing, and that's why I was struggling. So that's why I joined with Betsy. And because she's unlike other business coaches, she focuses on coaching and consulting completely. She really spoke to me and understood exactly what I needed and helped me out. I am, after many years as a school principal, right now I help parents who are struggling with their young children. They tell me they're exhausted, they're frustrated, they're embarrassed that their children aren't listening, or the school is calling and sending emails and saying, do something with your child. And so they call me and I come in, I'm like their back pocket. They can call me anytime and ask me, and I coach them through their parenting struggles.
And it's amazing watching all of the growth that you've had. We've been working together for over 2 years or so, and it's
Right.
just your confidence, your ability to describe what you do has just gotten amazing. It's just so clear. I love that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julie Griffin, and I founded the Healthier Executive, launched that health coaching business last December. And really, perfection is the enemy of progress is my mantra. And so I knew I wasn't all the way bright, but I knew if I waited, I would just continue to wait. So I put myself out there, launched it, and funny enough, Betsy saw my launch post through a common colleague connection, and reached out to me and asked me to do a podcast. And it was there that I learned about what Betsy does, how she helps new coaches and consultants. And I felt like joining the master class would be extremely timely and beneficial, especially in the social media class, so that I could better understand what the heck I'm going to do. So it's been very helpful, and look forward to talking more about it with all of you. Thanks for having me.
And what's so cool about Julie being here is I met Julie strictly through social media. If we didn't have a social media connection, she would not be here. So this is great. And last but not least, Keith.
Yeah, thanks. Keith Smith. I help creative visionary leaders align their teams towards the next big idea, and getting them aligned either through change management, organizational change, executive change, whatever that change might be. I come alongside that executive as a trusted partner and really help to understand what's hiding in the shadows, what aren't they hearing, so I come in, illuminate those shadows, find out what they're not being told and what's getting in the way of getting their team aligned towards their big vision. And I've been working with Betsy for, gosh, I don't even know how many years, but Betsy helped me initially get my branding and my positioning and what I do and who my clients are. And, launched my consulting practice late last year. And really joined this group, this Purpose Profits Academy, for the social media challenge, because I really didn't know I didn't have a framework for how to approach social media at all. I was on there, I would post things randomly, but really didn't have a solid strategy or a plan, or quite frankly, an understanding. And I really came to learn from this group, and I've certainly accomplished that. So it's been great.
Well, that was a perfect segue into my next question. So thank you for that, Keith. So let's talk about social media. So what were the challenges that you had with social media, either in terms of like what Keith just said is like, I didn't have a strategy, I didn't have a plan or framework, that might be one, but what are some of the other social media challenges, either tactically or just kind of in your own mindset? And we could just all talk together. You don't have to take turns. I mean, take turns enough to make it clear for people who are listening, but we could just have a conversation.
I think for me, the biggest challenge I had out of the gates was the confidence of my posts and my content. And yeah, I didn't have a strategy around it either. And making sure that I managed my expectations around, because I thought the end result was around likes and around reposts and how many views you got. And unfortunately, it's about what I learned is it's about consistency and getting yourself out there. And as I am passionate about helping executive women feel better so they can perform better, it was very important for me to understand that getting the information out there was just as important and more important than just the likes and the reposts and so forth. So getting over that hump has really helped me mentally and emotionally build my confidence with putting content out there.
And I think that you're bringing up a really important point around one of the big barriers that we all might face is like, okay, we have these vanity metrics and then we have our intentions. And that's what the tension seems like to be. It's like, well, do I need to have like the likes, the comments, the shares and all of that? Or is it really just about my intention is I want to connect with the women that I care about and the clients that I care about? That was really powerful. Thank you.
One of the things that I felt was really helpful for me was aligning the things that I put out on social media with the mission and vision of who I am and what I represent. And it's less, for me, it felt less than what is the latest video that I want to comment on or repost or make my own, but really making sure that the things that I was putting up there and representing as me were in alignment with the things that I valued and the things that I felt were important with who I am as the brand that I am, because I am my own brand now. And I need to make sure that I am in alignment. And so it like Julie was saying, it was less about the likes and the clicks than I'm posting things that are authentic and add value and represent who I am and how I want to be in the world.
I love this because we're sort of creating a polemic between misconceptions about social media to reality. And it really seems to be the differences between a personal brand and really an authentic brand. Like personal brand is about being an influencer and your reputation and how you're seen. Your authentic brand is about how you're showing up as you. And I think that there's a lot of issues that we might have because we're all, we're in the Purpose to Profits Academy. So, we're purpose driven. And it seems like this personal brand influencer kind of persona, having that fake reputation is just not really who we are. And that could have been a barrier because it seems like to be successful, we have to, be everywhere. Oh, selfie time, like we have to be like that. So I like that. Thank you.
It was definitely a shift in
Yeah.
thinking for sure.
Well, and to that point, Betsy, the selfie time, right, is there are things that I personally don't like about social media or that turn me off about, either people that post selfies all the time, whatever it might be, but it's very self-serving a lot of the time. And I think that was getting in the way of, me embracing how to use social media in the best way possible, because my product, I don't, I'm not in it to sell online product. I don't have a commodity that I'm selling. It's me, it's the service that I provide and how to represent that without doing the things that I didn't like that about social media, and really trying to get around that and understand exactly what you were just saying, Kimberly, about what's authentic, what feels right for me, and I'm not going to do it just because everybody else is doing it, and that seems like the model that I have to follow.
That's awesome. Siri.
I think I was going to talk about how helpful it was to work on social media in a group, because when you post things on social media, yeah, you get likes or you get, views, but you really impressions, but you really don't know how it's landing. So when you can post and then say, can you guys, take a look at it and tell me what you think and get real feedback on what it looks like from another's point of view is so valuable, because it feels like it's going out into the black hole of social media and you really don't know how it's landing. So it's really helpful and it helps refine that message. Do you think I got my point across, like to what Kimberly was saying? And do you think I got my authentic point across? Did it come across? How could I edit it? What would I do next time? It was so helpful.
It's almost like full circle to what Julie said in the beginning. Like some of the challenges to begin with was, what do I write about, and are my posts coming across properly, or how are my posts coming across, and having the group really help with that.
Yep.
One thing that we started with in our challenge was social media in general. Like how do we win on social media, even if we're skeptical? But we all wound up narrowing in on LinkedIn as the one common platform that we all are on. Why do you think that it's important for consultants and coaches? Like, why do you think we landed on LinkedIn, that we're really going to hit our mastery there and then apply the principles to other platforms? Why do you think that is, that should be our primary social media platform?
Well, I think LinkedIn is designed for networking. That's kind of its purpose, where Facebook is more for your vacation selfies and Instagram is more for your dance videos and things like that, where LinkedIn is really a professional network. And that's where I think, as a sort of a common thread between us, where we found our sort of our niche in terms of the people that we're looking to reach and the target audience that we want to find, the professionals that we want to serve, are pretty much all on LinkedIn. At least that's what I found.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
I think business people who participate in LinkedIn understand what a consultant is, understand what a coach is. It's part of business growth. So it makes sense that we're there.
Yeah. I think, Keith, you were going to say something.
No, I was just agreeing with what Kimberly said around LinkedIn, and that's the intent behind that platform. At least, in today's world, there could be another platform that emerges in the changing world of technology, but and I think there are some, like Pinterest. I know is becoming another spot where consultants. It's not just about pictures to redecorate your house with curtains, right? It's now about finding services and products. So. But I think LinkedIn is the place right now, and it's also easy to take what we're learning and apply it in other um, platforms. But LinkedIn's the one right now.
Julie, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just would say, who is your target client and where do they spend their time? And so for my target client who is an executive or a high achieving woman, they're going to be maybe they're on Facebook, Instagram, that type of thing. But professionally, they're on LinkedIn, and I felt my reach was going to be much broader than with the other platforms.
And I also think that there's something about the credibility, like we're trying to build not just brands, but our premium authentic brands, and aligning ourselves with LinkedIn versus like TikTok, like doesn't feel like, oh, that's this brand. It doesn't look the same unless I was just, it had a very different kind of business model, or even like as much as like Pinterest is growing, but Pinterest is, people perceive Pinterest as a place to go find where you're decorating. So would a C-suite executive find themselves on Pinterest? Probably not. If they came across a consultant on Pinterest or found a consultant on LinkedIn, how would they perceive the value of those two? So that would be the only other thing I would add. So what would you say are the biggest takeaways? So we spent, I would say like what, 4 months, doing a deep dive. So what we did in the challenge is we spent, the beginning part really establishing our goals. We worked on polishing our profile. We talked about a lot about how do you grow your network? How do you strategically add people to your network? How do you respond to network requests or connection requests? We went over, how to get the algorithms to like you. We talked about what else we talk about? How to come up with content ideas, how to repurpose those content ideas, and so much more. What would you say is your biggest takeaways though from all of those trainings and all of our group discussions? Like the biggest things that you learned?
I'll go first. Well, one of my big things is it feels small, but it was you had a speaker come to our group who spoke about LinkedIn, and she said that if you want to have your how the algorithm worked better if you had 500 plus connections, and I didn't. So I focused on getting 500 plus good connections, not just like anybody. By good, I mean matched my my
Ideal
group.
client.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my ideal client. And it took me quite a while. And then what I found out was after I got 500 plus, it was incredibly easy to add more. I'm just adding more by the day. Part of it is because during the group, we talked about how to find good connections. And I put those skills into action. And it just like all of a sudden people are asking me my ideal client is asking me to connect. And I'm like, what? I'm not asking, they're asking me. So that was really helpful, not just being focused on the number of connections, but also how to really connect with people. And I changed my connection message based on what you taught us. And that really helped too.
That's awesome. That's great. Who would like to go next?
I think for me, it's about my takeaway was, I tended to just do things, shooting from the hip, so to speak. And so incorporating intention and strategy into what I do and why I do it, and make sure it's connected to what my business is all about. And again, that word authentic, making sure it's authentic to who I am and what I believe. It was really important. And it was also, the other piece of it was, I'm naturally a curious person and I like to experiment and I'm analytical. So it's like, okay, this week I'm going to do a video. Next week I'm going to do a carousel. I'm going to do a selfie on this one. And then combined with times of day and what day. So really experimenting and then analyzing the results of that was a huge takeaway for me, rather than I just got to get something out there at some point. So that's the content. And then the connections, being really intentional about that as well, making sure that I spend time on that because I hadn't in the past. I've seen my network grow by 10%. So that's great.
That's awesome.
One of the things that I really appreciated about being a part of the process was the group mind. One of my big takeaways was the benefit of having the group to do this together so that we could take advantage of each other's strengths. And one person would post in our communication thread about, I found this resource, and somebody else would post, I saw your post, here's some feedback. I thought it was great. And just being able to take advantage of the power of the hive mind of our collective strengths. To me, it made it much more comfortable to push myself in a direction that I wasn't very confident in, because I knew I had support. And I knew I had resources, and I knew I had connections, and I knew I had a place to go to get feedback and commentary and just grow and make it better. So my biggest aha and appreciation was for being a part of the group doing this.
Yeah, so it's like learning new things, trying it out, and then getting feedback. Like that's what it
Yes.
seems like. It's like I got new skills, I tried them out, I analyzed them, I got other people, recycle, rinse, repeat.
Right. But I didn't do it blindly. I did it with the help of the other members of the group, so that I wasn't just putting myself out there with no way of measuring how I was doing. Because if I tried to do this on my own, sure, I could do it on my own, but then I would have no way of knowing how it was landing or how it was being received. So I really appreciated the group for this.
Keith?
Yeah, I think for me it was really learning about how to put a framework together for posting. Right to Julie's point about the types of posts, the framework for acknowledging when you get connection requests. Uh, I think we all get random connection requests and we're like, what do I do with this? I'm not sure what this person really wants. And to be able to have a framework then to kind of respond to them and put it into context to decide if that's, a valuable connection for you to have from a business perspective. And do they fit into your ideal client, or do they see things in the way that you see them in your practice, right? So those were some really good takeaways. And I agree with just having the group there. I learned so much from everybody else in terms of things that we were all trying new things. We all had things that we came across in the process that we would share generously with each other. And it was just a great cohort of learning together, and feeling that trust of I'm gonna ask the opinion of the group, and if they tell me it's not right, then okay, I can make an adjustment before I put it out there and see what happens.
I like what you said about even just the trust of the group, because, we have a hard time seeing the quality of our work because we all have that nose to the window pane syndrome. So what's nice is getting that outside perspective, and if it's constructive. I mean, if you could look at it as critical feedback, but it's not, it's constructive, because it's hard for us to see. The big thing I would say, and I would love for you all to weigh in on this, that I walked away from the challenge was just this deep appreciation for social media, especially on LinkedIn, is behind every profile is a person. And that this is a person, I love getting to know people. And so the opportunity to get to know new people, like because you put that intention where it's like, if you move away from the vanity metrics and you move away from like, oh, how, I'm an influencer, and it's like, okay, there's a person. So obviously Julie's here because I connect with her as a person. There's somebody else that I had reached out to using the script, and he's like, oh, and then I don't know how the conversation happened. It turns out we both work for the same company. We knew a whole bunch of the same people. We wound up on a Zoom call. I met another girl who lives down the street from me, and we had coffee, where I don't know if it's going to turn into business, but it turned into a connection, a real connection. And I think that that's what we have to remind ourselves on social media is behind every profile is a person. They're not alike, they're a person. If they comment on what you have to say, they're a person and they have a person, and we like people. We're consultants and coaches. So to me, that's like the number one thing to get over the roadblocks, because that's what we're going to get into next is, okay, so we have these great ahas and we have some success stories. We're talking about how much we've grown our network and we've been more consistent. Well, some of us have become more consistent because that goes into the challenges area. Like for me, I'll just start off on my side. The biggest challenge I had with the challenge is I made a commitment to myself, 4 to 5. This is going to be my social media day. I have stuff figured out. And, 4 to 5, or it was like 4 to 5 was my exercise time as well. Cause, Julie helped inspire me that I needed to be a healthier executive woman. But I did the exercise for the most part, but not the 4 to 5. I couldn't stay consistent. I don't know if any of you have that same problem of just staying consistent in that routine. That's my biggest roadblock. So if you have that same roadblock, let me know and what you did to overcome it and what other roadblocks you felt as we were trying to implement our learnings.
Definitely. Definitely. The consistency was the hardest part. I had to give myself a lot of grace and a lot of, self-forgiveness and a lot of permission, lots of permission slips to try it again the next day or just back off of my ultimately, the original was a very aggressive schedule. And I realized that I was just not able to keep it up, and giving myself permission to kind of step back from that and reevaluate and try again the next day. Or if I just needed to take a couple days and take a break, what other things could I do as opposed to sticking with my original schedule? What else can I do that can still make a difference, but just didn't feel so overwhelming that day? That was kind of my takeaway from that.
Julie, I'd love
I
for
have
you to
big
weigh in
time.
on that one because you talk a lot about habit stacking in your work. So I would love for you to address what Kimberly and I are talking. I would love to hear from your perspective as a participant. And I want to hear your obstacles, but I'd love to hear your wisdom as somebody who helps people with healthy habit stacking.
Yeah, so I was going to chime in anyway, so thank you. Because consistency it is hard. It is really hard. You move from a corporate world where meetings drive your schedule, right? And you just go from one meeting to the next. And you go to this wide open cowboy land, right? You can do whatever you want. So it was very difficult to get consistency. I think I'm a very reflective person. And so when I found myself in situations where I wasn't consistent, I just had to back up and think about, well, why? Why am I not being? Maybe it's not the right schedule for me. Maybe it's, rather than just like sticking to my guns and, I got to do this, really think about it and then provide, as you mentioned, really yourself some grace and understanding and be flexible and agile with your schedule. At the end of the day, it's results, right? It's not all the activities that you do. So thinking about it in that perspective and trying to figure out if a better way would be important to drive the business forward. So that's the approach that I've taken. From a professional expertise standpoint, yeah, habit stacking is a really cool method to help you with consistency. So if you're having trouble with, for example, figuring out your connections and adding people to your network, and you want to spend 15 minutes of the day on that, or 15 minutes of the week, whatever your goal is, taking that activity and saying, okay, what do I do routinely once a day? And how can I take the connections and stack it on top of this thing that I do as a habit every day? So if every day I know I'm going to go in and look at LinkedIn and like, and make comments, then I'm also going to take 10 minutes and drive connections. And that's seems to be very helpful to people to just stack one thing on top of another that's very routine in nature.
That's good. Others? Keith or Sari?
I also had the same struggle. You know, I came from a school environment where every minute is planned. And if you do have a minute, you have to decide, am I going to eat something? Or am I going to skip that and go whatever? And so then having this, like Julie said, this wide open space was very hard for me. I still struggle with it. I tried setting up a schedule, like a school schedule from 8 to 9, this, and that didn't work for me because the minute I didn't do from 8 to 9, I just like gave up on the whole schedule. So that didn't work. What I did find, one thing that worked for me, like I do have a 4 to 5. From 4 to 5, I write. And I think and I'm writing, it could be for my newsletter, it could be for social media, it could be for a long email. It might be for any number of things. And that kind of freed me up from I have to write for social media. Because I like writing. So from 4 to 5, I write, and whatever I decide that goes to, and that's worked for me. That kind of sacred 4 to 5 space. And I never thought I would, but I drop whatever I'm doing at 4 o'clock and I write.
So that goes into really maybe with Kimberly and I, we don't have it in our routine, in that muscle memory quite yet. But it's like figuring a way to get something into that muscle memory and that routine where you are in a routine. That 4 to 5 is a routine. For Kimberly and I, we don't have it quite in that muscle memory. So which that in itself could become part of our habit stacking, is if we could get it long enough to be in that muscle memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about you, Keith? Oh, sorry.
I set an alarm every day in the beginning because it wasn't part of my habit. And I would forget. Oh, God, and it would be 5 o'clock and I would, God. So I started setting an alarm at 3:45. And now it's a habit.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. There's our 1% from this podcast. Awesome. Thank you.
I like that. I'm going to do that.
Keith?
I like the comment, I forget who said it, about quality over quantity. At least that resonated with me because, again, I've got very high responsibility. I have high achiever, and if I say I'm going to get something done, I'm going to get it done, right? But for me, like getting it done, does that mean just doing a post every day for the sake of doing a post every day? Then I really had to step back to realize no one's sending me notes going, you didn't post today. Like I was waiting for your post, right? Like kind of getting over the expense of, okay, it's not like people are just holding their device waiting for my post to come through. And I'd rather post things that are relevant and that connect and speak to people and have great content than to try to just get something out the door every day. But I had to get myself over that, like, okay, this is my own responsibility that I'm holding myself accountable for. It's not like, the general public is out there saying, hey, Keith, where's your post today?
And you're bringing up a perfect segue once again, Keith, to my next question, which is, when you've pushed yourself even outside your comfort zone for the quality, like there's the vulnerability element. Like I would actually the question that I want to ask, and I'm going to go to you first on this one is, what are some of the things that you've done as a result of this challenge that pushed you out of your comfort zone? So for me, I'm not a selfie girl, and I posted a couple selfies. So one was with you, Keith. And I don't remember, I think I did another one by myself, like I never do a do a selfie by myself is the most vulnerable thing that you could imagine me ever doing on social media. Like that's like, oh, kill me now. But Keith, you went out and you talked about, a challenging time in your career. And I think you said, I don't remember what the number of views are at this point in time. I think it's like 16,000 plus more, 30,000,
24,
24,000.
24,000.
So was that like a big
Who knew?
stretch outside of your comfort zone, or for you to be that vulnerable? Or was that just like, I didn't think of it, and then I realized later it was vulnerable? Like, how did you get past anything that was outside your comfort zone to get that post? And were you surprised by the results? Obviously you were.
Oh, incredibly surprised. Yeah. I think it was more because I had thought about that post for a long time. And I think for me, it was a post about, the college program at Disney and not getting accepted into it and my rejection letter. And for the longest time, I was not sure how that would be taken, right? Like I was concerned, would that look like sour grapes? Would it look like a negative commentary on the college program, right? So I had all these self-doubt conversations going on in my head, but I found the right moment, and I think that was what really helped me. It was the right moment when others were posting about the program, and it was recruitment season, so people were talking about their kind of foot in the door with Disney. And my intent was, again, to talk about what a great program it was, but to share my personal experience with it, but to also say, yes, I didn't get accepted, but I had an amazing 32-year career there. And there are more ways. I don't want to get into commentary about our society, but I think we're in a world where everyone gets a medal, right? And I think it's okay to understand that you're going to get rejected, but it's not the only way sometimes. There are many other ways to do something if you have a goal. And once I got past those concerns about, what are others going to think about it? And I was just blown away. And I think the reason is it's universal. And I can't think of anyone that has never gone for a job or something and they've been rejected from it, right? It's just such a universal experience that people have. And it blew me away. So hopefully more of my posts will get that same reaction.
That's awesome. And I'm inspired by hearing you tell the story over again. So I could see why that one got 24,000 views. Anybody else feel like you had to step outside your comfort zone? And what was your comfort zone that you stepped out of?
It was being vulnerable and authentic. I mean, it was putting yourself out there in a way personally that I've never done before. And yeah, I'm like you too. Selfies, that's not my thing. Don't like to do it. But I've noticed that when I have pictures of myself on my posts, I get more reaction and more impressions. So that's interesting. But it was really about telling people things that I've, only told close friends that, oh my gosh, I'm telling the whole world. It was very challenging to do that.
Yeah. And maybe it goes back to, this is why we are skeptical about social media, but to be really successful, you have to be vulnerable. And that's really hard, especially what Keith said earlier. We are the product. We're the brand. That's why it's everything that we do to build our businesses is so much harder. Kimberly, you're going to add?
I would piggyback on what Julie said. Some of the things that I've tried to do to kind of put myself out there more really require me to land on one side of a fence versus another side of a fence. And, in one regard, I don't want to piss people off. I'm not trying to upset people, or I'm not trying to be offensive, but I am trying to make a point, and I am trying to share my thoughts and feelings about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. And it's very important to me. And so I had to, and I'm still working on it, and this is not something that I have gotten past. It's sort of a constant thing for me, is to just really remember that it's important to stay true to me, to the values that I have, and to remember that by coming down on one side of the fence, that while yes, in one regard, it's going to push a certain number of people away from me, but then again, those are the people I don't really want around me anyway. And by being opinionated and having uh, something to say about a topic, I am attracting to me the people who are like me or who have a similar opinion or a similar value. And those are the people that I want around me. And so it's kind of self-serving in a way to weed out the people that are just naturally going to fall away from the kinds of services that I provide and the person that I am and the value that I bring. But then again, I got to remember that's okay. I didn't want them around me anyway. But I still have to remind myself of that every time I post.
You bring up a really interesting point, because what you and Siri do is something that, there is controversy around. Like, nobody would say what Julie's doing is like, oh, we're all on board that, high achieving women should be healthier. And nobody's going to say, oh, Keith, you shouldn't really help these people get strategies to the finish line and look behind the corners and stuff like that. But the two of you have businesses that are in the world of parenting, children, schools, and all of that kind of stuff, which naturally does create some controversy, and that to advocate, if you're going to advocate for teachers, it's going to create controversy. And if you're going to advocate for a parenting style, with like what Siri would do, that's going to create controversy. So that's the questions, like we actually try to have this conversation as our group. It's like, where's the proper level of controversy where you state your opinion and try to, advocate for your perspective, but still balance it with the professionalism of LinkedIn?
I think what I learned was it comes from your response. So if you say something that maybe some people don't agree with because they're seeing it from a different point of view, the professionalism in the brand is how you respond to it. And if you can, and what we learned is if you can generate a conversation within the comments, that's the gold standard. That's where you get your payback.
Mm-hmm. And that you can avoid the what do we call it? The trolls. You could avoid them and just delete their comments. But the people who are stating a different opinion, that's interesting. Keith, you had a perspective on where the professionalism is. Like, if you see something that somebody's posting and you vehemently agree, or you think they're being hypocritical or something like that, do you engage with that person, or you kind of like take a chill back? Or you had some opinions on that?
Yeah, I know. It depends, right? Like if someone is disparaging another person or another company, I would not engage there. I just don't think LinkedIn is the platform for that. But I do think that if there is discourse in opinions and conversation, absolutely, as long as it's in a respectful way. And I've seen for the most part on LinkedIn, people tend to be respectful in that way, unlike on other social media platforms. And I think I have to get better at engaging in areas where I don't agree as much, because you don't want to. I think there's this fear of turning people off, right, or pushing them away from you. But I love what you said, Kimberly, about those aren't the people I want around me, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so I think I have room to grow there, but I would engage in the right conversation. But again, never something that's disparaging.
So as we move towards wrapping up this episode, I would love to hear from you if there's anything that you want to share about social media or this challenge, and I'm just not asking you the right question.
I think the big picture for me after working through these things is an attitude change of, instead of focusing on social media, I'm focusing on curiosity.
Mm.
What does make people tick? What does make people want to engage on social media? What will be most helpful to people? What will ring true? And so it gets less scary if you're curious.
Mm. That's good.
Love that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have anything to add?
One of my takeaways that I'm moving forward with is less about attracting attention to me. It's all about me and who I am and likes and what did you call them? Vanity metrics. But really more about what can I put out there that can be helpful? What can I put out there that somebody else would find valuable or supportive or a resource in my field area, which is teacher mental health. So I'm what is it that I can contribute and how can I add to the conversation around this so that I can elevate the topic itself, not just me. It's not about me. It's about who I'm serving and how I'm trying to help this community. That was really something that sort of was a shift in thinking for me. It was less about, oh, well, I'm putting my name on this, so this is about me. It's more about the teachers that I can help and the communities that I can serve.
That's good.
And I would just, a few of you have already said it, but I just want to echo the impact that this group has had, because the honest and really diverse kind of thinking and feedback that I've been privy to, because I'm part of this group, has just helped me think differently. And I really appreciate the different perspectives and know that I'm further along than I otherwise would be. So thank you.
Wow, thank you. Keith? Anything else?
No, I just agree with what everyone has said. I don't know. I don't have anything new to add.
I think that is a wrap up for me is in terms of the social media challenge, it's been inspiring for me because I feel like as the role that I was playing is more like I'm facilitating the dialogue. Like I'm not pretending I'm an expert in it. So I feel like I learned so much. And I loved so many of the conversations that we had, like, Sari bringing up, like, how do you deal with a difficult person? I love when we unpacked Julie's post and then we identified that Julie actually in one post had actually 5 posts. And so I've been evaluating with a lot of my content. It's like, well, why am I reinventing the wheel all the time? Like if I do a free webinar, why can't I turn that into a podcast? Or if I'm doing a course here, why can't I why can't I go back and forth on that one? Or how do you take one thing and turn it into many? So I think sometimes we get overwhelmed because we think every day has to be a completely unique idea rather than we could do more. And I think that's the power of being in a community is you could see things from different perspectives. Is there anything else about the community of their mastermind? If somebody's on the fence, so just for those who are listening, the Purpose to Profits Academy is my membership community where we get together weekly for skill building and training on persuasive communication, copywriting, marketing, sales, and all that kind of stuff, community support, as we were discussing. We do different topics for every quarter so that we're building a specific skill. That's what we're all about. We're wrapping up our social media one. We're getting into a persuasive presentations and webinars. So our next series is all around how do you take a speaking opportunity, like Julie has a speaking opportunity? How do you turn that into something that you can use from a lead generating opportunity? Or Kimberly's thinking about starting some regular workshops and free workshops to get new leads and that type of thing. So we're getting into that. So is there anything that you would talk about as it relates to what you're excited about for this upcoming challenge and anything that you would share about the benefits of being on this being a part of this community?
Well, I alluded to it earlier when we were talking, but I really think that sorry about that. If you're a solopreneur, like a person who is in your own shop and you're all by yourself, that a community like this is super valuable because it gives you an opportunity to bounce your ideas off of other professionals who have a variety of backgrounds, who have a variety of experiences, and really help you give amazing feedback. This group is really good at feedback, I gotta say. And it really sharpens my saw of my skills. And I definitely feel that I would not be where I am today if I was not a part of a community like this.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah,
And who do you
100%.
ask? I say, who do you ask? Well, I don't know what to do. I like I am by myself, and it's a new experience for me. I'm used to being around hundreds of people every day, and now I'm by myself. So now who do you ask? Because I'm a team person. I've always worked on teams, so this is my team.
That's great. I love that because we've replaced those colleagues that you lost when you left your job. So yay.
When I first
Yeah, and I
started,
like that.
oh, go
Go ahead,
ahead,
Julie.
Keith. I was just saying when I first started with Betsy with this Purpose to Profits Academy, I said, I'll try it for a month. And um, and then a month went by and I was like, well, this is actually good. And actually the first week I had access to Betsy's materials for the past year. That was worth 3 months, probably, because there's so many tools and templates and things that you can start with and revise and custom to fit what your needs are. So it's been great to learn from others, and the community is so important. That has been a huge benefit. So that's what I would say. Give it a try.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm just echoing everything everyone has said here. The ability to have groups, or you mentioned, other people to converse with and to bounce ideas off of. And I think for me, it's not just other people, but it's a very diverse group. We're not all in the same industry, so to speak. And that for me has been really exciting. Just to get different perspectives and to bounce ideas and have a sense of community with others that I don't have because I'm not working in an office or working with people in the same company any longer.
And the thing is too, we're in diverse industries, but everybody is in the consulting and coaching industry. So that is what's nice, is that we are all coming from similar backgrounds and trying to create a similar kind of difference. Like, we do want to make a difference in the world. It's not that we're not here just to make money. We really want to be doing it in a way that is in alignment with our values and our vision. So thank you for saying that. For those who are listening, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Enough Already podcast. A couple next steps. I did make you an infographic. If you are interested in some of the best practices that we have learned around LinkedIn specifically, please check out my website at www.betsyjordyn, and Jordyn's with a y.com/LinkedIn. And you will find that infographic, and you can get just a quick snapshot of all of the best practices. And a special incentive if you want to join before we start our new series on the persuasive presentations and workshops. I also have a bonus for you. We have a detailed workbook that will give you the step-by-step that goes along with all of the video recordings from our Social Media for Skeptics series. So if you would like to do that and join us now, please check out betsyjordyn.com/academy. So that is it for our social media conversation. Thank you all for being there. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you all next time.